What's up everyone, it's Kelly and today I've got a favorites video for you. So today I'm partnering up with Mooncat to show you their new nail polish, and since they just started their lunar sale, I figured I would also put together a list of polishes I think you need. Before we get into all that, if you haven't heard of Mooncat before, they are a nail polish brand that is based in the US, and all of their polishes are 10 free, meaning they are free of 10 of the potentially harmful ingredients that can be found in nail polish. They are vegan, meaning they do not use any animal-derived ingredients, and they're also cruelty-free, meaning they do not test their products on animals. So twice a year, they have their lunar sale, which is a site-wide 20% off using the code LUNAR20, and it's a really great time to stock up on polishes you've been eyeing because it's a pretty big discount. So during their last lunar sale, I actually did do a favorites video, which I highly recommend checking out as well if you're looking for more options, but I wanted to do another one because there have been certain colors I've been gravitating towards recently, and I think there's also a few overlooked polishes that I really think deserve a mention. So I've put together 9 more favorites of Mooncat polishes that I think you should own. But before the favorites, let's talk about their new shade. So this is Mercury in Retrograde. It's actually a magnetic nail polish. So it's this really beautiful soft periwinkle blue base, and then within that base we have this really intense fuchsia pink shimmer as well as a silver magnetic sparkle. And this is honestly just one of those polishes that I think looks so beautiful just unmagnetized, but once you magnetize it, it really does come alive. And I feel like this is something that Mooncat does a lot. So if you magnetize it in the cat eye style, it pulls all of that silver pigment to the center of the nail, and then you're left with that really intense fuchsia shimmer just combined with that periwinkle blue base. And I mention it a lot, but I just love contrasting shimmers. I love that soft blue paired with that intense pink. It's just a really beautiful contrast. And of course, I also like to magnetize in the aura or velvet style, and I think that one's a little bit harder to tell on camera, but the silver magnetic pigment is so good for that. It kind of just separates out the two shimmers, so we have kind of a layer of the silver magnetic shimmer on top, but when you shift your nail around, you can see the underneath layer that has the pink shimmer. So it's really cool. It kind of just gives a very three-dimensional effect, and with that silver shimmer, it really does look very velvety on the nails. So for magnetic nail polishes, I like to do 2 coats for full coverage, and then I'll apply a 3rd coat and I'll magnetize that coat. So that's what I did for this swatch. It's a really gorgeous shade. I'm really excited they came out with it. I love their magnetics. This one's retailing for $16 USD, and it is eligible for the 20% off discount code, and it's also not a limited edition polish, so it is here to stay. So now let's get into the favorites. We've got some older shades, we've got some newer shades, but a really nice variety here. The first of which is Pixie Stick. This is a polish I feel like I've been wearing a lot, especially this springtime. It's actually this kind of sheer pearlescent white that has a really intense iridescent shimmer running throughout. So looking at it head on, I can see a lot of green into blue and then pink, and it does build up to full coverage. So when I wear it as a full coverage polish, I like to do 3 coats, but I also love the way that this one looks in one sheer coat on the nails. I think it's just such a beautiful soft shade in one coat, and then when I want it to be more intense and bright, that's when I go in with 3 coats. But it's a really fun shade. I feel like people don't talk about this one enough. I feel like it's almost a little bit bridal because you got your something blue, but it's also just this beautiful soft white, and it just kind of feels like a very classic nail color. So it can feel a little bit neutral, but then when the light hits it, it becomes really bright and fun and colorful. Definitely an underrated shade in my opinion. Next up, we have Tectonic Shift. I love the Mooncat flaky polishes. They do this formula so well, and you'll see a few of those in this favorites list. This one I think is super special. It's this really beautiful soft green jelly base, and then within it, it's absolutely packed with this iridescent flaky. So looking at it head on, I see a lot of pink to orange to yellow, and then around the edges, I'm seeing more of this like greenish yellow into almost like a blue green. So it's really cool, but the special thing about this one is it actually has a matte finish, and I think that the combination of matte finish plus flakies is some of the most beautiful polishes in the world, and this one's no exception. I feel like it almost looks opalescent, but I just really love having it in this greenish sort of base. I think it just makes it a little bit more interesting, and I do think green nail polishes are also very underrated, so I just think this is a very special one. Of course, you can apply a glossy top coat over this as well, and I think it looks really beautiful in its glossy state, but I do think it looks especially pretty when it's mattified. Next, we have a relatively new polish to my collection. collection. This is Devil's Ivy, and this was part of their spring collection. And I just cannot get over this one. I think it is so stunning. We have this really soft sage green, and it has a silver magnetic shimmer running throughout. So again, it's one of those shades that just looks really pretty on its own unmagnetized, but it is a magnetic nail polish. So when you magnetize it in the cat eye style, it just creates this beautiful, soft, almost like sea glass background. And then we have that intense stripe of the magnetic pigment. But I especially love this in the velvet style because I think it does look very velvety, especially with that silver. So this was definitely a standout for me. Honestly, I loved the whole spring collection, but this is the one I've been gravitating towards the most recently. Next up, we have River Styx, and this was part of their Underworld collection. And I feel like this color did not get as much love as it deserved because everybody was really into House of Hades. But I think that this is an equally gorgeous blue in a very different way. This one's just this really bright, cool blue, but within it we have this intense green shimmer, and it has a little bit of like this pearlescent brushstroke kind of vibe that I think looks so gorgeous. But this feels like the perfect summer color to me. It's definitely like sitting by the pool vibes, a very tropical kind of color, I think. But I feel like you could also make this work for other seasons. I just think it's a really beautiful shade, and it hasn't gotten enough love, so I really wanted to mention it. Moving on, we have the shade Maelstrom, and this is actually from their newest collection, which was another collection that I loved all of those shades. But this was one of the standouts for me. There was another standout, which I'm going to mention next. This one is another full coverage flaky polish. So we've got this jelly blue base, and then within it we have this intense flaky that shines basically from blue to green to yellow, and it really does give like a fish scale, mermaid tail kind of vibe. I love that there are some bigger flakes in there as well, and there's also a subtle little hollow shimmer running throughout. So there's a lot going on in this polish, but it's really beautiful and it has so much depth to it. This is one of those polishes that the more layers you do, the more intense the manicure is going to be in terms of like layers of flaky. So I thought this one was really fun in 3 coats, but I could also wear it in 2. This was just a standout for me in the latest collection, and I could not resist mentioning it. And then we have the other standout of the newest collection. This is Treachery in the blue, and this is a thermal color changing nail polish. So depending on the temperature, it is going to change colors on your nail. When it's in its cold state, it's this really beautiful slate blue, and in its warm state, it becomes this sort of blush beige color. And it also has a little silver hollow sparkle running throughout that's pretty subtle, but it does add a nice little sparkle. And I gotta say, I love their thermal nail polishes. They've only done a few so far, but every single one of them has been a total hit for me. They're very, very sensitive, so it does change a lot on the nail. Even if you have shorter nails, I know a lot of people sometimes worry that if they have short nails, there's really no point in doing color changing nail polish because it's always going to be in the warm state, but I really don't find that to be true. I feel like throughout the day, my nails just change color so much. Some of my fingers, I guess, just randomly get cold. I don't even realize it, but it happens, and it's just really funny, especially like my ring finger and my pinky always end up being on the cooler end, but sometimes it does still create a natural gradient on my nails, which I think is really cool. But I just love this color combination. I think it's so stunning because it kind of reminds me of the beach. Like you have the beige sand and then you have the blue ocean. So I just thought that was a really cool combo. Next up, we have another flaky and another older shade. This is Stumped. This one is a brown jelly base that has iridescent flakies running throughout. So again, super shifty and color changing just depending on the angle you're looking at your nail. But mostly I see this copper into orange into yellow, and then around the edges I can see a little bit of green and blue as well. And this is just another one. The layers are so beautiful. I like to do this in 3 coats, and it kind of reminds me of Falling Leaves, but I feel like with that brightness in the center with all of those flakies, I feel like it could be worn any time of year. It's almost just like a dark base that has this sparkly opalescent fire within. So I do think that's really cool, but I do especially find it to be a perfect fall shade. So I really like it for that. But again, I could just see myself wearing this a lot. I feel like this would also be really beautiful mattified, but I have not tried it with a matte top coat. Then we have the shade Sin Eater, and this is a really cool shimmer. It actually has this purple jelly base, but as you reach full opacity on this, it does become almost this blackened color. And then within that, we have this really intense flaky shimmer. So it's not big flakes. It's really, really tiny. It looks like a shimmer, but it's just a little bit more multifaceted than that. So you can kind of catch a little bit of like a shape within it. And looking at it head on, there's a lot of pink, copper, orange, but then around the edges, I see a lot of yellow and even into green. So it's just kind of one of those lit from within polishes. When the light hits it, it becomes so bright, but other than that, it's just this very vampy dark shade. So I think it's a really special one. Again, I do like to wear this one in 3 coats because I like when it's super deep and dark, but when I want the purple to come out a little bit, I do like to do it in 2 coats. And last but not least, we have yet another flaky. This is Hermit Crab, and this one is actually pretty different from the rest of the shades. I think this one is just super bright, and honestly, this wasn't the kind of color that I would gravitate towards for a while, but recently I've just been loving my coral shades. Did I mention the name of this one? It's called Hermit Crab. So we've got this really beautiful coral jelly base. It's almost like a crelly base, and then we've got this gorgeous flaky running throughout that mostly looks gold when you look at it, and then we also have a tiny shimmer flaky running throughout as well. So it just feels like there's a lot going on in here. It feels like a perfect summer shade. It's just super bright and fun, and I love at certain angles it just changes color a little bit because of the flakies. Like sometimes I see a little bit of green, sometimes I see a little bit more pink. So I just think it's a really fun shade, and I wanted to mention it because I think it's pretty common with nail polish enthusiasts to really lean towards the cooler colors like the green, blue, purples, and we tend to neglect like the pink, coral red kind of shades just because they're like more mainstream, but I just think this is a really fun one. So that's it for my favorites list. I'll pop everything up here, and like I said, I also have another favorites list in the cards if you want to check that out. So honestly, there's so much to choose from with Mooncat. They have so many beautiful polishes, and I feel like their collections lately have just been perfect, so it's definitely hard to narrow it down. But let me give you the details of the sale. Like I said, it's 20% off site-wide, and all you have to do is use the code LUNAR20 at checkout, and this sale is running now through May 19th, so I highly recommend grabbing your polishes early just because they can sell out. But I will put all of the information down in the description. You can check that out if you're interested, but I would love to hear from you. What colors are you eyeing during the sale, or if you've already grabbed some, leave it in the comments and let me know which of my favorites is your favorite. If you enjoyed my favorites videos, please hit that like button. It really helps me out. It lets me know I'm doing a good job. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing. I put out new videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And of course, a huge shout out to my supporters on Patreon, my Royal Astronomer Amanda M, as well as my Cosmic Admirals Ken, Rosie, and Angel. I really appreciate your support, and I'll see you all in my next video. Bye. Today's fun fact is another would you rather question. Would you rather have to sleep for 15 hours a day or only be able to sleep 2 hours a night? I feel like this is another super easy one because if I could live off of only 2 hours of sleep, like if it didn't affect my health, I would absolutely choose that. One, just because more hours in the day, that's super convenient. And two, because I feel like, I don't know, nighttime is very pretty and I miss a lot of it because I'm sleeping. So I just feel like it would be nice to be awake during those hours. I actually used to be on a medication that made me sleep a lot. This was like a decade ago at this point. I was sleeping like 15 hours a day minimum, which is kind of crazy looking back. I didn't take that medication for too long, but I did not enjoy that. I feel like I was, well, honestly, I was probably tired all the time because of the medication, but I feel like I also was not awake for enough hours to be productive. Like, I was in school at the time, so I just did my classes and then I went back to sleep. So I feel like that time passed by very quickly because I was literally just going to class and sleeping. But I don't miss that. It's not that I don't dislike sleep. I think it's nice, but I wouldn't mind having less of it. But let me know your answer. Would you rather have to sleep 15 hours a night or only be able to sleep for 2 hours a night? Leave it in the comments, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye.